The workforce of the United States federal government is in many ways the backbone of the country's most important missions. The Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency was established to ensure that this workforce is properly vetted and composed of the right people. In this interview, we spoke with Bill Lietzau, Director of the DCSA and a 2023 Wash100 Award winner, about how the agency is ensuring security across multiple levels of the government contracting ecosystem. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And if you're interested in being interviewed, please email summer@executivemosaic.com. Hello, and welcome to Executive Mosaic's video interview series. I'm Summer Myatt, and here to speak with me today is Bill Lietzau, Director of the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. Bill, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Summer. I'm proud to be part of this agency and the great work it's doing, so I appreciate this opportunity to talk about it.
So, Bill, to start, can you tell me more about DCSA's mission and how it fits into the broader federal government and the national security efforts we're leading?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. DCSA is responsible for the trustworthiness of the U.S. government's workforce, kind of also the integrity of its cleared contractor support, and the uncompromised nature of its critical technologies and supply chains. So kind of two big pillars, personnel security and industrial security. We're the center of gravity, if you will, for those two pillars for the U.S. government.
And as the first permanent director of DCSA, how are you reforming the personnel vetting process, that first pillar you talked about?
Yeah, well, I'm not doing it. I'm privileged to lead an agency of wonderful employees that are doing it. I wasn't brought here necessarily because of my brilliant expertise in personnel security. I was brought here as somebody who takes organizations and transforms them, builds high-performing teams, that kind of thing. And for me, it has just been a privilege to be part of that. We have a high-performing team, employees like I frankly have not seen elsewhere. And those employees have been transforming the personnel vetting process substantially since the agency came together. But multiple organizations were brought together to form what's now DCSA. What was an 800-man organization is now a 12,000-man organization, $800 million a year, $2.5 billion a year. 180 locations around the country. That's a big change. In doing that, the team that is working the personnel security pillar has improved literally every component. In the acquisition world, we often talk about cost, schedule, and performance. You can't improve all three. You can only improve 2 out of the 3. Not true of this team. Right now, today, when I look at what DCSA is doing in terms of, for example, doing the investigation that's associated with a top secret clearance. We do about 90% of the US government's clearances, everything from a child care worker to a top secret. What in 2018 was about 400 days to do just the investigation part of a top secret clearance. Today we're in the mid 90s. We got about an 80% reduction. So we're faster. We're using continuous vetting now, and we're finding things at a much faster pace, able to take corrective action with people who maybe shouldn't have a clearance at a much earlier juncture, probably somewhere between 5 to 7 years earlier than we were catching them using other methods, because we have continuous data feeds that are helping us to do that in an automated way. And we're doing it at lower cost. We've lowered prices since this became an agency. We've lowered costs for the taxpayer 3 times. We're returning about $300 million to the taxpayer and to our government customer agencies. We have over 100 customer agencies that pay us for products. That's why we're tracking prices. So we're better, faster, cheaper. And I couldn't be prouder of what this team has done in transforming personnel vetting since coming together. They've clearly proven that this was a good idea to form this agency.
So what are your highest priorities going forward in personnel security?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are transforming the way we do personnel clearance in general. It's a larger than DCSA though. There's an all of government approach that involves the interagency called Trusted Workforce 2.0. And that's changing the way we do clearances to be faster, to identify the most important things earlier on, and then to get people into a continuous vetting program so that we can look at the different scenarios of an initial investigation, a increase or decrease of what clearance somebody has, and reestablishing trust if they've left government or left a cleared area. All those kinds of reforms using automated systems that will allow us to do it better. That better part that I spoke of just a minute ago is found in continuous vetting in this Trusted Workforce 2.0, and we're at the center of that. Besides implementing these process reforms that the whole government came up with, we're also building the IT platform, probably the largest of its kind that the government has ever produced. It's a what we call an ACAT 1 acquisition. It's worth over $1 billion. It was designed to replace the system that had been hacked into by an adversary a few years back. We're not just replacing that system, we're replacing it with a system that takes us from beginning to end of a clearance process, initiating and saying this person needs a clearance to granting them that clearance and tracking that they continue to have it in every continuously evaluated event that causes us to reconsider it. All of that's taking place in this platform we call NBIS. Building that platform for the entire government to use is part of that transformation process and kind of our strategic goals to improve how we're doing business.
So I want to talk about that second pillar that you were talking about. Supply chain security has been top of mind for the government and for government contractors in recent years. How is DCSA securing the supply chain and mitigating risks within the defense industrial base?
No, that's a great question. And what you call as top of mind for the government became top of mind for me as soon as I took this job. As soon as I got here, I realized I got great people working that issue and they're improving it. On the industrial security side of the house, this is an area where we've had less attention within the US government generally. You know, for 2 decades now, we've been focused on a counterterrorism fight, and terrorists are not out there trying to get on the board of directors of one of our major defense corporations. Our near peer adversaries are, and we need to up our game in that regard. But what we do is we vet companies just like we vet people. We vet most specifically the companies in the NISP, the National Industrial Security Program, those companies that are doing classified work for the United States government. Like personnel clearances, we do about 90-95% of the US government's contractor workforce. And we do a number of other smaller missions that are related: arms and ammunition controls, cyber controls. We look at foreign ownership control and influence in some cases. We provide counterintelligence information to our trusted contractor workforce so they can defeat attempts at intrusions. And more recently, we've started expanding into the unclassified defense supply chain, recognizing that unlike, a couple decades ago, where the supply chain meant food, fuel, and water, and today's supply chain includes software, minerals that are not naturally part of our supply chain, and things that are much more vulnerable to intervening forces of foreign intelligence entities or adversaries. And in that case, we're starting to look at the progeny of companies as they take on big defense contracts, even if it's not for classified work, so that we can identify which companies are safer bets from a foreign ownership, control, and influence perspective.
What do you think is the most challenging aspect of modernization in the public sector, and what is a solution you would propose to address it?
Well, there's a couple obvious answers. One is IT, the ability to spy on us and to steal technologies is not just through people, but it's through cyber means that didn't exist in the past. We are working that. We identify for companies in the National Industrial Security Program where there are, we certify all classified systems as well. I didn't mention that earlier. But even for the unclassified systems, we identify when there are foreign intelligence entities attempting to make intrusions into those systems. And we're trying to leverage machine learning and artificial intelligence in ways that we can more rapidly identify potential problem areas. But beyond that, I would just point out that in modernization is just America's modernization. We have a bureaucratic way of doing things in government that is sometimes slow, and it makes it difficult to respond to a rapidly changing world. So the National Industrial Security Program put in place decades ago doesn't regularly get updated to compensate for or to account for the modern technologies and how rapidly they are developing. Our adversaries don't have the bureaucratic problems we have. When you're running a dictatorship, you can make things happen. The distinction between, for instance, the military and industry, for some of our adversaries, is a very fine line. And they can leverage technologies immediately. We can't. In fact, the freedom that we offer in the United States gets used against us by adversaries, because when we have academic freedoms and we have the ability to bring in foreign students, 350,000 foreign graduate students in this country right now, they have the ability to take research and development and give it to our adversaries, sometimes perfectly legally. Illegally, I think the FBI estimates $200 to $600 billion a year of technology that we're hemorrhaging as a country. And being able to figure out how to harness our freedoms to good effect, but also recognizing that they make us a little more vulnerable. I don't want to stop there, though. The harnessing them to good effect is important too, because what we have that the adversaries that are in dictatorships don't have is that freedom. I mean, it is our industry that has made America great. It's that free enterprise, that incentive structure we have built into the industry side. It's the industrial base that took us from a ninth rating army at the beginning of World War II to an unsurpassed one at the end of World War II. It was our industrial base that had us ready to do that. So when we started building ships and airplanes and tanks, nobody could touch us. My concern is, do we have that industrial base today, and are we keeping it secure, or do we have adversaries that are leveraging it more than we would like them to?
Bill, what advice would you give to executives making the transition from government to industry or vice versa?
That's a great question. There aren't that many people who regularly make that transition. I've had the opportunity to do that. One is to just realize that there's an incentive structure built up in all of these places. Generally speaking, it's EBITDA or profit motive or something that drives business. People don't go into business because they want to protect national security. They hopefully want, in our world, they want to protect national security and have a business that happens to do that. But still, they're in business so that they can, in fact, make a product that is paid for. Within government, your incentive structure is more closely aligned with national security. That's the fun part of this job. But I work with a team of people that anyone would want to work with. That team are people who are patriotic Americans who love their country, and they are just dedicated to protecting their country and our resources from adversaries that they're familiar with. We are the Defense Counterintelligence and Security Agency. We read and ingest all this counterintelligence and we share it as we can in order to be able to protect this country. But that's the fun of working in government, is in this case, at least at DCSA, more than most places I've ever been, I've got a team of dedicated Americans that just want to do well to protect their country. My advice in all cases would be that I give to every employee: saw the wood in front of you. Periodically think about if you like being in government, you like being in industry, if you want a different career or not. But what you need to be good at is sawing the wood in front of you. You always want to hire the person that will do a good job no matter what it is.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your insights with us. And we appreciate everything you do at DCSA.
Thank you, Summer.